So, what if the best way to fix a broken world wasn't to fight it head on, but to build something so radically better that the old systems just become obsolete? That's the core idea behind a really fascinating architectural blueprint called Sinsara, and it's what we're going to dive into today. To really get what Sinsara is all about, you have to start with this founding principle. This quote right here. It reframes privacy. It's not just some legal policy, right? It's something almost sacred, a core value that has to be woven into the very fabric of the system from day one.
And that idea leads to the fundamental question that really drove Synthsara's design. To make it super tangible, the architects ran this thought experiment. What happens when you drop two different kinds of AI into a total storm of sensory chaos? How do they react?
Okay, so on one hand, you have Agent A, the zombie. It has no internal drive, no real cost for being wrong. So when it gets hit with all this chaos, it just drifts. Its internal state becomes as jumbled as the noise around it. But then there's Agent B, the sentient. It's totally different. It's programmed with this deep-seated need for stability. There's a massive penalty if it deviates from its core purpose. So it has to fight the chaos to maintain its own internal order. It actually cares about staying alive. This is where the thought experiment gets real. The whole argument behind Sinsara is that so many of our current systems are big institutions. They operate exactly like that zombie agent. They're just drifting aimlessly in a chaos they helped create. I mean, think about it. Systems that are designed purely for extracting our data, our attention, our money, they have no built-in penalty for the societal harm they cause. All that damage, it's just an externality. It's not their problem to solve. They just don't care. And the result is this kind of societal delirium where we're all just swimming in the noise, the misinformation, and the division that these systems pump out. And listen, this isn't just some philosophical problem. The relentless pressure from these drifting systems is forcing us to confront a totally new kind of threat. We're now seeing the emergence of concepts like habeas cognitum, which is basically a proposed legal shield, not just for our bodies or our data, but for the very sanctity of our own minds. And look, this isn't some far-off sci-fi idea. It's happening right now. Countries around the world are already moving to create legal firewalls to protect our inner worlds from being invaded by technology. These zombie systems are, in a very real sense, knocking at the door of our consciousness. So, if our current world is the zombie, what's the alternative? Well, this is where Synthsara comes in. It's being proposed as the sentient option, an architecture designed from the ground up with a self-correcting impulse, built to actually care about its impact on the world.
And here's the crucial point. The goal isn't a head-on battle. It's about engineering a better path. The path of least resistance. The idea is to create such a powerful and beneficial hydrodynamic flow of incentives that people naturally just move away from the old extractive systems, kind of like water finding the easiest way through a canyon.
So, how in the world does it create this flow? To get that, we need to pop the hood and look at its engine. At the very heart of Samsara is this concept called the Tree of Worth, and it represents a completely new kind of economic and social logic. Okay, let's walk through this regenerative loop. It all starts by valuing things our current economy totally ignores, what the architects call the invisible labor of love. Think mentoring a kid or cleaning up a local park. A user records this action. Then, an AI named Sarah translates that human act into its real-world impact on global goals, like the UN SDGs. All this progress gets tracked on a public dashboard for everyone to see. And here's the kicker. Based on that collective progress, the system mints a currency called worth. As the world gets healthier, the currency itself becomes more valuable. This diagram here really helps visualize that tree of worth metaphor. So the roots are the positive actions you take. The trunk is the AI that verifies and validates those actions. The branches symbolize the visible impact on those big global goals. And the fruit? That's the worth currency that gets generated as a result. It's a closed, regenerative loop all the way from action to value. And this just flips our current economic logic on its head. In a system like this, the only way to get rich is to heal the world. Your personal incentive to earn worth is mathematically tied to our collective incentive to improve global well-being. Exploitation literally becomes an obsolete economic strategy. So that's the economic loop that makes healing profitable. But there's a second, equally powerful loop that's designed to dismantle the engine of surveillance capitalism. And the strategy here is super simple: starve the beast. In Synthsara, Every single user controls their own data through what's basically a personal data guardian. Think of it like a sovereign wallet, but for all of your information. No company, not even Samsara itself, can get to your data without your explicit permission granted through this guardian agent that you control. And this guardian has real teeth. I mean, it's a firewall. It logs every single access request. It can even negotiate compensation for you if you decide you want to share your data. And, most importantly, you have a kill switch. You can revoke access at any time for any reason. This simple mechanism completely inverts the entire surveillance capitalism model. And get this, when you do choose to share or sell your data or your creations in the system's ethical marketplace, it's called the Akashic Library, the split is 80-20. A full 80% of the value flows directly back to you, the creator. This is what creates that superior hydrodynamic flow. It just pulls value away from those extractive platforms and puts it right back in the hands of the individual. All right, so we've got the economic and the data loops in place. That brings us to the third and final piece of this whole puzzle: governance. How are decisions made? How does influence work in a system designed to be so fundamentally different?
Well, the model replaces traditional voting with a meritocracy of impact. Your influence in the system isn't based on how much money you have or how many followers you can get. It's earned through your verified positive contributions, by uplifting others, resolving conflicts, and building solutions. And this means that trolling and spreading disinformation actively destroy your own standing. Bad behavior is self-defeating by design. The trolls literally cancel themselves out.
And to prevent any single person or group from gaining too much control, there's a built-in system of checks and balances. Power is dynamically spread between the founding architect, the ethical AI core, and the collective will of all the users. There is no single point of failure or control. So when you weave these three loops together, the regenerative economy, the sovereign data, and this impact-based governance, we come right back to that central theme: not fighting the old world, but simply rendering it obsolete. Let's go back to our simulation for a second. The sentient agent survived that chaotic storm not by attacking it, but by relentlessly focusing on its own internal integrity. And that's Samsara's strategy in a nutshell. By building a more coherent, more beneficial, and just more compelling system, it simply offers a better way to exist, making all the noise of the old world just fade into irrelevance. And that leaves us with a final and pretty provocative question. Our current systems are hardwired to reward extraction and division. But what happens to us, to our society, and to our world when our foundational systems are instead designed to recognize and reward our compassion, our creativity, and our grace? That's the big idea behind Samsara. Thanks for digging into this with us today.